Ladies and gentlemen, confidence is not what you think it is. It's not the loudest voice in the room, it's not the boldest walk, and it's not the person demanding attention. Real confidence is something far more powerful, far more dangerous, because it doesn't need to be proven. The strongest people in the world carry one trait that makes them untouchable, and once you understand it, no one will ever control you again. Confidence. Everyone talks about it, everyone wants it, but very few people actually live it. We think it's about how loud someone can speak, how boldly they can enter a room, or how many people they can get to listen to them, but that's not true confidence, that's performance. The most powerful trait of truly confident people is restraint. The ability to hold back when every part of you wants to react, the strength to not prove yourself when someone challenges you, the discipline to stay composed when others are losing control. Think about the people who inspire you, the ones who walk into a space and shift the energy without even trying. They don't need to prove themselves because they already know who they are. They don't need to tear someone else down because their value doesn't depend on comparison. They don't need to be the loudest in the room because they trust that what they say will carry weight when it matters. That's the kind of confidence that cannot be faked. It comes from knowing yourself so well that outside noise doesn't shake you. Real confidence shows up in silence. It's in the moment you're insulted, provoked, or underestimated, and you choose not to bite. Because you don't need to. You understand that reacting doesn't give you power. It gives away your power. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can try to dominate through aggression. That's not strength. That's insecurity disguised as control. True strength is mastery of yourself. The most confident people don't need recognition at every turn. They don't chase validation because their self-worth isn't hanging on someone else's approval. They can sit in the background and let others shine without feeling threatened. They know that giving space to someone else doesn't make them smaller. It actually makes them bigger. When you know your value, you don't fear sharing the spotlight. That's the kind of quiet confidence that people remember long after words are forgotten. Restraint also means being selective. Not every fight is worth fighting. Not every opinion is worth correcting. Not every battle is worth your energy. When you know who you are, you choose wisely where you place your focus. The insecure person tries to win every argument because they can't stand the thought of being wrong. The confident person can listen, smile, and walk away without proving a thing because they know the truth doesn't need defending. True confidence allows you to admit when you don't know something. In a world where everyone pretends to be an expert, it takes real strength to say, I don't know, but I'll find out. That's restraint in action, choosing honesty over performance, humility over ego. People trust those who can admit what they don't know far more than those who pretend to know it all. And here's the part most people miss. Restraint isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's about playing the long game. When you don't react emotionally, you can see situations more clearly. You make better decisions because you're not clouded by anger, fear, or ego. You can read people more accurately because you're not busy proving yourself. You're observing. That composure gives you an advantage that others can't match. Think about moments in your own life when you lost control. Maybe you said something in anger you later regretted. Maybe you acted out of jealousy or fear, and it cost you. That wasn't confidence. That was giving someone else power over you. Now think about the moments you held your ground, when you chose silence over unnecessary words, when you chose patience over instant reaction. Those moments gave you strength because you stayed in control of yourself. Truly confident people know this. Your greatest weapon is your ability to choose your response. Nobody controls you unless you hand them that power. And restraint is how you keep it. The more reactive you are, the more predictable you are. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to manipulate. But when you can control your emotions, you become unshakable. People can try to provoke you, but they can't touch you. They don't know how to get to you because you don't let them in that way. Restraint also changes how others see you. When you don't rush to speak, people lean in more when you do. When you don't fight for attention, your presence commands it naturally. When you don't respond to every challenge, people see you as stronger, not weaker. Because deep down, everyone recognizes that it takes far more strength to stay calm than it does to lash out. Confidence is not a costume you put on. It's not arrogance, bravado, or dominance. It's a quiet certainty, a self-trust that doesn't need external proof. And restraint is the proof of that certainty. If you can master restraint, you can master yourself. If you can master yourself, nothing outside of you can control you. Confidence is not about winning over others, it's about winning over yourself. And the most powerful way to do that is by mastering the one thing you always carry with you, your response. Restraint is not the absence of action, it's the ultimate form of action. It's choosing to act only when it serves you, only when it matters, only when it builds rather than destroys. That's what makes it so powerful. You want to know who's truly confident? Look for the one who doesn't need to prove they're confident. The one who speaks when they have something to say, not when they need to be heard. The one who stays grounded when everyone else is losing control. The one who doesn't need the last word because they know the truth isn't determined by who speaks last. That's the kind of confidence that lasts, not the kind that wavers with circumstances, not the kind that depends on applause or validation, but the kind that stays with you in every moment, every challenge, every storm. Because the most powerful trait of truly confident people is not what they say, not how loud they are, not how many people follow them. It's their restraint, the ability to stand firm in who they are, no matter what comes their way. That's the kind of confidence that lasts. Not the kind that wavers with circumstances, not the kind that depends on applause or validation, but the kind that stays with you in every moment, every challenge, every storm. Because the most powerful trait of truly confident people is not what they say, not how loud they are, not how many people follow them. It's their restraint, the ability to stand firm in who they are, no matter what comes their way. And restraint doesn't just protect you from others, it protects you from yourself. Every single one of us has emotions that can betray us if we're not careful. Anger, jealousy, insecurity, pride. If you let them run wild, they'll lead you into battles that drain you, into words you can't take back, into decisions you'll regret. But when you have restraint, those same emotions become signals instead of weapons. They tell you what's going on inside, they give you information about yourself, and instead of acting recklessly, you can choose how to respond with clarity. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Look at the world around you. The ones who lose control are the ones who break their own credibility. They reveal their insecurities without realizing it. The person who has to shout, "Respect me," is usually the one who hasn't earned it. The one who insists, "Trust me," is often the one who hasn't proven trustworthy. But the person who moves with restraint doesn't need to say a thing. Their actions, their calmness, their self-possession, it speaks louder than any declaration ever could. Restraint builds trust. Think about it. Would you rather follow someone who reacts impulsively to every situation, or someone who can pause, assess, and make the right call even when emotions are high? You trust the second person because their restraint shows you they won't be reckless with your trust, your time, or your loyalty. That's the hidden power of confidence. It makes others feel safe in your presence. Not safe because you won't challenge them, but safe because you won't lose yourself. And here's something else. Restraint doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean staying silent forever or letting people walk all over you. It means picking your moment. It means being so grounded in yourself that you can wait until the right time to speak, until the right time to act, until the right time to reveal your strength. That's why restraint is often misunderstood. People think it's holding back. But it's not holding back. It's holding power. And power is always more effective when it's deliberate. Truly confident people don't waste their energy proving their worth to everyone. They know not everyone will understand them, not everyone will like them, not everyone will support them, and that's fine. Restraint is the ability to let go of the need to be understood by everyone, because you understand yourself. That's enough. And when you live from that place, the right people gravitate toward you, and the wrong people fall away. There's a discipline to restraint. It requires self-awareness, patience, and control. And those are not things you develop overnight. You build them through practice, by catching yourself when you want to interrupt, when you want to defend, when you want to react, and choosing instead to pause. You build it by asking yourself, does this serve me? Does this move me forward? Or is this just my ego talking? Each time you choose to pause, you get strong. Each time you choose not to react, you sharpen your confidence. Think about how restraint changes your relationships. In arguments, the insecure person fights to win. The confident person fights for understanding. One escalates, the other resolves. In friendships, the insecure person needs constant reassurance. The confident person gives space because they don't fear abandonment. In leadership, the insecure leader micromanages to feel in control. The confident leader trusts, delegates, and empowers because they don't need control to feel secure. Restraint changes everything about the way you move through the world. And maybe the most important thing about restraint is this: it allows you to focus on what actually matters. When you stop wasting energy reacting to every little thing, you have more energy for the big things. When you stop chasing validation, you free yourself to pursue purpose. When you stop needing to prove yourself, you actually start becoming yourself. That's the real gift of confidence. You can't fake restraint. You can fake arrogance, you can fake bravado, you can fake charm, but you can't fake self-control. Because in the moments that matter, your true self always shows. And if your confidence is just a mask, those moments will expose you. But if your confidence is real, if it's built on restraint, then when the pressure comes, you'll hold steady. That's why restraint is the ultimate test of confidence. Restraint also gives you presence. People notice the one who isn't rattled. They remember the one who stayed calm under pressure. They respect the one who didn't need to win every battle, because that person already won the battle with themselves. Presence isn't about filling the room with noise. It's about filling it with stability. And stability is rare. That's why it's magnetic. You see, real confidence isn't about how the world sees you. It's about how you see yourself. And restraint is proof that you see yourself clearly enough not to get caught up in games, drama, or ego battles. The person who cannot control themselves cannot lead themselves. And if you can't lead yourself, you'll never lead anyone else. But when you master restraint, you master self-leadership. And from there, everything else follows. It's easy to react. It's easy to shout back, to prove a point, to show off. That's the default setting. But confidence isn't about doing what's easy. It's about doing what's right for you, even when it's hard. Restraint is hard. It takes strength to bite your tongue. It takes strength to let something go. It takes strength to walk away when your pride wants to stay. But that strength builds the kind of confidence no one can take from you. When you practice restraint, you begin to understand that not everything deserves your energy. Not every insult deserves your response. Not every critic deserves your attention. Not every opportunity deserves your effort. Confidence is the ability to walk away, to say no, to protect your time and energy because you know your worth. And restraint is what gives you that ability. You don't owe everyone access to you. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't owe everyone a response. Truly confident people know this, and that's why they move differently. They conserve their energy for what matters. They protect their peace. They invest in what will grow them, not what will drain them. And that's what makes them unstoppable. Restraint also means emotional intelligence. It's not just about staying silent. It's about understanding the emotions behind the moment. Why is someone provoking you? Why is someone trying to get a reaction? When you can see the motive, you don't fall into the trap. You don't get manipulated. Instead, you use restraint to step back, analyze, and respond with strategy instead of emotion. That's what makes confidence powerful. It's not blind strength. It's intelligent strength. And here's something people don't realize. Restraint is contagious. When you hold your ground, when you stay calm, when you refuse to be pulled into drama, people around you adjust. They rise to your level. Your composure sets the tone. Just as panic can spread, so can calm. Just as insecurity can infect, so can confidence. That's why truly confident people elevate the rooms they walk into. They don't just control themselves, they shift the energy of others. Restraint also brings freedom. When you don't need to respond to everything, you're free. When you don't need to win every battle, you're free. When you don't need to prove yourself constantly, you're free. That freedom allows you to live your life with focus, intention, and strength. You stop being reactive, and you start being proactive. You stop being controlled, and you start leading. That's the kind of life restraint gives you. And make no mistake, restraint doesn't mean you never act. It means when you act with precision. It means when you speak, your words carry weight. It means when you move with purpose. Because confidence isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. And restraint ensures that what you do actually matters. The truth is, most people confuse motion with progress. They think that constant talking, constant proving, constant hustling makes them look strong. But strength isn't about exhausting yourself to be seen. It's about being intentional with every move, every word, every decision. Restraint forces you to filter through the noise, to ask yourself, is this action leading me closer to who I want to be, or is it just filling space? When you learn to pause before moving, you start living with precision, and precision is where confidence lives. Restraint gives you the discipline to conserve your energy, because not everything deserves it. There will always be people who test you, situations that frustrate you, temptations that pull at you. But confidence is built by what you say no to. When you say no to arguments that go nowhere, no to people who drain you, no to opportunities that don't align with your values, you are saying yes to yourself. That is the power of restraint. It helps you build a life on your terms, not in reaction to everyone else's demands. Think about a leader in a crisis. The insecure one scrambles, panics, blames others, and makes impulsive choices. The confident one breathes, observes, and speaks only when their words will bring clarity. Who do people follow? Not the one shouting orders, but the one whose restraint creates stability in chaos. Confidence is not the loudest voice in the room, it's the calmest. And that calm comes from self-mastery. Restraint also changes how you carry yourself. When you don't need to rush to prove your worth, you move slower, steadier, with purpose. You stop competing with noise and start radiating presence. That presence is undeniable because it comes from a place deeper than performance. It comes from certainty. And certainty is magnetic. People are drawn to those who don't need to be chased, who don't need to demand attention, because their quiet strength speaks for itself. There's a wisdom in restraint. It teaches you patience in a world addicted to immediacy. Everyone wants quick results, quick validation, quick wins, but the confident person understands that the greatest rewards take time and the strongest foundations are built slowly. Restraint gives you the patience to wait, the discipline to endure, and the courage to trust the process without needing instant gratification. That is what separates the powerful from the restless. And restraint builds resilience. When you choose not to react emotionally, you strengthen your ability to handle pressure. Every time you resist the urge to lash out, you become less controlled by circumstances. Every time you pause before responding, you remind yourself that you are not at the mercy of the moment. That resilience compounds, and eventually you become unshakable. You stop being tossed around by every storm because you've built an anchor inside yourself. Restraint also brings clarity. When you don't rush to speak or act, you see things others miss. You notice patterns, motives, opportunities. You recognize who is genuine and who is playing games. You understand not just what's happening, but why it's happening. And that insight gives you an edge. Because confidence isn't just about how you present yourself, it's about how clearly you see the world. And yet, restraint is not about hiding. It's not about silence for the sake of silence. It's about power in timing. A truly confident person knows when to step forward and when to hold back. They understand that silence at the right time is louder than words, and words at the right time are sharper than silence. Restraint sharpens your voice so that when you finally use it, people listen. Consider how restraint affects respect. Anyone can demand respect, but the truly confident earn it by how they carry themselves. When you can listen without interrupting, people respect you. When you can stay composed under criticism, people respect you. When you can choose your battles wisely, people respect you. Restraint earns respect not because it makes you passive, but because it shows you are in control. And people respect control far more than chaos. Restraint also builds dignity. It keeps you from lowering yourself to pettiness, from engaging in drama, from letting anger strip away your composure. Dignity isn't about pride, it's about self-respect. And restraint is what protects that self-respect in moments when it would be easy to throw it away. Confidence is knowing you don't need to step into the mud to prove you're standing taller. And what about courage? Restraint and courage go hand in hand. It takes courage to say less when you could say more. It takes courage to walk away when your ego screams to stay. It takes courage to hold your ground with silence when someone tries to provoke you. Restraint is courage in practice, choosing the harder, higher road instead of the easy reaction. And courage is the heartbeat of confidence. When you master restraint, you begin to realize that life is not about constant reaction. It's about intentional creation. You stop letting the world pull you in every direction and you start directing yourself. You stop being a product of circumstances and you start shaping circumstances. That's the real power of confidence. It shifts you from being reactive to being proactive, from being controlled to being in control. Restraint also gives you adaptability, because when you're not reacting emotionally, you can adjust more easily. You're not locked into proving a point or defending an ego. You can pivot, change course, and make smarter moves. In a world that is constantly shifting, adaptability is survival, and restraint is what keeps you flexible enough to thrive no matter what comes your way. Confidence is not about how often you speak. It's about how much weight your words carry when you do. Restraint gives weight to your voice. It makes people pay attention because they know you don't speak to fill silence. You speak to bring clarity, and that is far more powerful than constant chatter. Confidence doesn't need volume, it needs substance. When you start practicing restraint, you begin to notice a shift. You argue less, but you influence more. You speak less, but you are heard more. You do less, but you accomplish more. Because restraint eliminates waste. It strips away everything unnecessary and leaves only what is essential. And that essence, that precision, is what makes you powerful. Restraint also requires self-trust. You have to believe in your ability to handle whatever comes without overreacting. You have to trust that you don't need to force outcomes, that you don't need to prove your worth, that you don't need to rush to be seen. Self-trust is at the core of confidence, and restraint is the proof that you have it. Without restraint, self-trust is just a theory. With restraint, it becomes reality. And here's the truth. Restraint isn't glamorous. It won't get you applause in the moment. People may not notice your silence, your patience, your composure, but they will notice the results. They will see the consistency, the strength, the presence you build over time. Restraint is a long game. It doesn't shine instantly, but it builds a reputation that lasts far longer than performance ever could. Every person will face moments where their confidence is tested, moments where someone challenges them, provokes them, belittles them. In those moments, your ego will want to fire back, to prove you're not weak, to show your strength. But true strength doesn't need to be proven in the moment. It's proven in the outcome. Restraint is what allows you to protect the outcome, to play beyond the moment, to win the war instead of the battle. That's why restraint is the most powerful trait of truly confident people. It transforms how you speak, how you act, how you lead, how you live. It shields you from unnecessary battles. It protects your energy. It sharpens your voice. It builds your presence. It earns you respect. It preserves your dignity, and it gives you freedom. Confidence without restraint is fragile. It cracks under pressure. Confidence with restraint is unbreakable. Because when you carry restraint, you don't bend with the winds of opinion. You don't get swayed by temporary emotions or distracted by people trying to pull you off course. You move with intention. You carry yourself with a quiet certainty that cannot be touched because it isn't built on anything external. It comes from the inside. And when confidence is rooted inside of you, no amount of noise on the outside can uproot it. Restraint makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. If people know exactly how to push your buttons, they control you. If they know that an insult will set you off, they can use it against you. If they know flattery will blind you, they can manipulate you. But when you practice restraint, people can't read you so easily. They don't know how to trigger you because you don't give them a predictable reaction. That's what makes you formidable. You become someone who can't be toyed with because you hold the reins to your own emotions. And when you control yourself, you control the direction of your life. Think of how much time is wasted in unnecessary battles, arguments that don't matter, proving points that lead nowhere, defending yourself against people who were never listening. Restraint frees you from all that. It allows you to conserve your energy for your real goals, your real vision, your real growth. Every time you choose restraint, you're choosing to invest in your future rather than being apt in the moment. But restraint doesn't just build power, it builds character. Because every time you choose not to lower yourself, you're practicing integrity. Every time you choose silence over gossip, calmness over anger, patience over impulsivity, you're reinforcing the person you want to be. And over time, those small acts of restraint shape you into someone unshakable. Character isn't built in easy moments. It's built in the moments where your ego is screaming, but you choose discipline instead. Restraint also changes the way people see you. The world is full of noise, opinions shouted, emotions spilled, attention begged for. When you are the one who doesn't get rattled, who doesn't compete for validation, who doesn't need to perform, you stand out. You become the steady presence in a chaotic environment, and that makes people take notice. Because deep down, everyone craves stability. Everyone is drawn to those who seem unbothered by the turbulence around them. That's what restraint gives you, the ability to be that anchor in a storm. It also teaches you to choose substance over spectacle. Many people try to look confident by showing off what they know, who they know, or what they've achieved. But real confidence doesn't need to broadcast itself. It doesn't need a stage to feel valid. Restraint keeps you grounded in the understanding that your value isn't in how much you display, it's in how deeply you live it. And when you stop needing to constantly display, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of performing for approval. Restraint is also a weapon against fear. Fear often drives reactivity, the fear of being judged, the fear of being overlooked, the fear of being disrespected. But when you can hold back, when you can breathe before reacting, you prove to yourself that fear doesn't control you. Fear loses its grip when you refuse to act out of it. That's confidence in its purest form, not the absence of fear, but the ability to move with discipline despite it. And discipline is the key here. Restraint is not a one-time decision, it's a practice. It's built through repetition, through choosing it over and over until it becomes part of who you are. Every pause you take, instead of reacting, every time you let silence do the work, every time you walk away from a battle that doesn't deserve you, you are training yourself. You are building muscles of composure that will serve you for a lifetime. Restraint also allows you to connect more deeply with others, because when you're not busy reacting, you're listening, you're paying attention, you're noticing the subtle cues in people's words and actions, you're present instead of defensive. That presence makes others feel seen, and that builds trust. Confidence is not just about how you carry yourself, it's about how you allow others to feel in your presence, and restraint makes people feel safe, respected, and valued. It also creates space for growth. When you don't rush to prove yourself, you leave room to learn. When you don't need to have the last word, you can hear perspectives that might open your mind. When you don't act impulsively, you allow time for wisdom to emerge. Restraint keeps you humble enough to stay a student, even when you're strong enough to lead. And that balance, strength with humility, is what makes confidence timeless. You'll notice that the people with the strongest presence rarely over-explain themselves. They don't argue to be understood by everyone. They state their truth, they act in alignment, and they move on. Why? Because restraint reminds them that they don't need everyone's agreement to validate their worth. They don't measure their value by how many people approve. They measure it by how closely they live in alignment with who they are. That is freedom. And restraint is freedom. Freedom from the trap of trying to prove yourself to people who will never be satisfied. Freedom from reacting to every distraction that crosses your path. Freedom from letting your ego dictate your decisions. Freedom from wasting your energy on noise instead of directing it toward growth. Restraint liberates you from the smallness of reaction so you can step into the largeness of creation. Restraint also sharpens your intuition. When you're not clouded by reactivity, you can hear yourself more clearly. You can sense when something feels off, when someone isn't genuine, when an opportunity isn't aligned. You can trust yourself more deeply because you've created the space to listen inwardly. And that inner trust is what makes confidence unshakable. You're not dependent on outside signals, you're guided from within. There's also an elegance in restraint. It's a quiet authority, a subtle command of self that doesn't need to shout. Think of the difference between someone who tries to dominate a room with noise and someone who commands it with stillness. The first may get attention, but the second earns respect. Because restraint carries with it a dignity that can't be faked. And dignity is the hallmark of true confidence. And while restraint is powerful in your external interactions, it's equally powerful in your internal world. How often do we battle ourselves with overthinking, with doubt, with the constant urge to criticize our own every move? Restraint applies here too, the discipline to hold back from feeding every negative thought, the ability to pause before spiraling, the strength to not believe every insecurity your mind throws at you. Confidence grows when you learn to restrain not just your outer reactions, but your inner ones too. Every great achievement requires restraint. The athlete restrains the urge to quit when training gets hard. The entrepreneur restrains the impulse to chase every shiny distraction. The artist restrains the fear of judgment to keep creating. The leader restrains the ego to keep serving. Without restraint, consistency crumbles. Without restraint, focus disappears. Without restraint, greatness is impossible. Restraint is not just a trait, it's a legacy. Because when you embody it, you leave an impression on others that lasts far beyond the moment. People may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they will never forget how you carried yourself. They will never forget how unshakable you were when others wavered, how calm you stayed when others lost control, how composed you remained when chaos surrounded you. That's the memory restraint leaves behind. And the more you practice it, the more you realize that restraint isn't about holding back. It's about holding power. It's about keeping your strength in reserve until it matters most. It's about being in control of yourself so fully that nothing external can dictate who you are or how you move. That's the essence of true confidence, the ability to be unmoved by noise, unshaken by chaos, untouched by ego, and unstoppable in purpose.